Hello, viewers. Welcome to another episode of Research Digest podcast. Let me introduce you with our guest today. We have with me Dr. Mohammad Rubayet Hasan, Tanvi. Dr. Hassan is currently working as a clinical microbiologist in Hamilton Regional Laboratory Medicine Program. He's also an assistant professor in McMaster University, Canada, in the Department of Pathology and Molecular Medicine. Tanvi bhai, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you so much, Banna, for a nice introduction. I'm happy to be in your podcast today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Bhaiya, so you have been to many different places. You have worked in different countries and different institutions. So please, for our audience, share your career journey briefly.
Thank you. It's actually a long story, especially because I have been moving around so much. So I'll try to very, very briefly tell about my journey. So I actually did my undergrad and master's in the Department of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology in University of Dhaka, and I was graduated in 1997. And after that, I worked a few years in Bangladesh, mostly in ICDDRB, first as a research assistant and then as a research officer. I also worked briefly in Beximco Pharma and also worked at science laboratory in Bangladesh. And in the year 2000, I got a scholarship from Australian Development Scholarship, it's called. So AusAid. So I went to Australia to do an MS. And after 1.5 year, I went back home, and almost immediately after that, I got scholarship to do PhD in Japan. And in the year 2002, end of 2002, basically, I moved to Japan to do my PhD. And my PhD was mostly in cell and molecular biology. And I graduated in 2006. And then I moved to USA as a postdoc at UC Berkeley. And I actually, part of my PhD thesis was also on the iron storage protein ferritin. So my first postdoc in UC Berkeley was actually on the iron storage protein ferritin. And then after 2 years, I moved to Texas A&M University with another postdoc. And after working about a year, I moved to Canada in Vancouver as a postdoc in UBC. So where I was working mostly on colorectal cancer biomarkers. And about after 2 years of working there, I think I got my first permanent position as a lab scientist in BC Children's Hospital in Vancouver. And also this around the same time, I was appointed as a clinical assistant professor of the University of British Columbia. So that's where actually my track kind of changed. The reason is, typically, when we do PhD, our main goal, actually career goal, is to find an academic position or finding a permanent scientist position or a biotech position. But when I started working as a lab scientist at BC Children's Hospital, which was actually a diagnostic microbiology laboratory, it's called Clinical Microbiology Laboratory, which is part of the pathology department.
Mm-hmm.
And I discovered that and there is a track exists where actually PhDs can become a licensed clinical microbiologist.
Mm-hmm.
And in Canada, licensed clinical microbiologist works almost in the same way as medical microbiologist. So the medical microbiologist means that's a physician track
Yeah.
where the students finish their MD and then they do residency in medical microbiology almost 6 years, and then they get the FRCPC and become a medical microbiologist. On the other hand, for PhDs, I will probably talk about this later more detailed. For PhDs, there are some qualification procedure available both in USA as well as in Canada. So, and then when I discovered the track, I was thinking that it was already 5 years of my postdoc. I already finished 5 years of postdoc. So the main path to become a clinical microbiologist is actually to do a clinical fellowship. But I thought it is impractical for me because I'm already finished 5 years of postdoc, and at this age it may be difficult to find a fellowship, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but there is an alternative there that I can possibly be eligible through job experience. So then, so as soon as I found out the path, I started kind of self-preparing myself while in the job, right? So at BC Children's, my main job was actually to develop new tests, molecular tests for
Mm-hmm.
infectious pathogens. So,
Okay.
so I've developed many tests there, but at the same time, with the help of my colleagues, my line manager, my boss, as well as the lab, I started to self-train myself. So
Mm-hmm.
I needed to finish at least 3 years of job and fulfill certain criteria to be eligible for the exam, basically. So,
Mm-hmm.
however, around after 3.5 years of working there, I got another career change. So one of my senior colleague, who is a professor at UBC, and he used to be the head of pathology at the BC Children's Hospital. And then he took a job in Doha, Qatar, to become a head of pathology. So this is a brand new hospital, which was like a highly ambitious project. They spent like $10 billion even just to build the building for the hospital. So then my colleague, senior colleague, he kind of convinced me to go with him to Qatar and to set up the molecular and the microbiology laboratory there.
Okay.
So when we went to Qatar, the building, hospital building was still under construction. So we were
Mm-hmm.
basically working at an offsite and planning how we're gonna build the lab from scratch, basically.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that was an amazing experience for me because, most of us actually go somewhere and work in an established facility, but
Yeah.
building something from scratch is a totally
Mm-hmm.
new experience. So I have been very actively involved in setting up the laboratory, starting from test menu selection, you know, laboratory setup, test validation, everything. But at the same time, around the same time, I also become eligible for the licensing exam with American Board of Medical Microbiology. So it is called ABMM, which is actually part of ASM, American Society of
Okay.
Microbiology. So then I submitted my paperwork for eligibility, and they approved my me for the exam. And after approval, we basically have a maximum of 3 years. Like
Mm-hmm.
we can write the exam a maximum of 3 times. So I was very lucky, I would say. I was really not fully prepared for the exam. I thought the first exam I will write it and have some experience, and then prepare well for the next year. But luckily, my first exam worked, and I did quite well, and so I got the license in 2015. So then at Sidra Hospital in Qatar, where I went there as an R&D scientist first, my position was changed to clinical microbiologist. And
Okay.
then because I did not have a clinical fellowship experience, so for about a year, I have shadowed my senior colleagues who were the
Mm-hmm.
clinical microbiologists to do how to do on call, how to handle clinical cases, right?
Right.
So over there, and then we successfully launched our lab, and the lab was almost in 5 year in operation. But at the same time, I actually established an independent research program there. So which is mainly on application of advanced DNA technologies for infectious disease diagnosis and surveillance, and I was very successful in securing grants there,
Mm-hmm.
including a 5 year clinical impact study, which was a multi-center study that I led there. And then COVID-19 pandemic started, and I had to play a significant role there. I'll tell about it later. So, and then actually in end of 2021, for family reasons, because my daughter was gonna get admitted to the university in Canada, I came back to Canada. as a clinical microbiologist in the Life Labs. Life Labs is the largest community lab in Canada, so which is more like a corporate style laboratory. But because I have a lot of passion and fascination for research
Mm.
and academic activities, so then when I got an offer from Hamilton Health Sciences and McMaster University, I moved there for the last 2 years. So right now I'm here, and I have also been promoted a few months ago as an associate professor. So right now I'm working as a clinical microbiologist in Hamilton for the regional lab, as well as an associate professor for McMaster University.
Okay, that's a wonderful journey, a long and but amazing journey. Thank you for sharing with us. If I want to talk on behalf of someone who has graduated recently, let's say have a undergraduate degree or a master's degree, or someone doing a PhD. So, what are the steps for them if they want to be a licensed clinical microbiologist? We
Yes,
can talk about in the perspective of Canada and USA.
yes, no, yes. Um, for non-physician track, we're only talking about non-physician track. For
Hmm.
USA, the licensing body is called American Board of Medical Microbiology, and in Canada, the licensing body is Canadian College of Microbiology. Okay,
Hmm.
and the first requirement is you have to have a PhD, right?
Okay.
So someone with a PhD who has a background in clinical microbiology or any related field. It's not too strict.
Okay.
It's not too strict. So
So I can tag with my question. So is it similar as clinical biochemist or
yes,
clinical? Okay.
so all of them are kind of similar, the
Mm.
non-physician tracks, but the licensing bodies are different.
Okay. Okay.
For biochemists, clinical biochemists, there is a separate licensing body. I think it's called ABM or something, American
Okay.
Board of Chemistry or something. And then
Mm.
there are clinical geneticist, and there's
Okay.
a genetics program. So, but one of the main thing is that the main route to become a clinical microbiologist or clinical biochemist or geneticist is that you have to do an approved clinical fellowship, which
Okay.
is the main path. And what are these
So
fellowships?
after PhD, that's the first step to.
Exactly. So the first after PhD, after having a PhD, then you have to do a clinical fellowship, which could be 2 to 3 years. And these fellowships are only offered by a very few universities only. Okay, and these fellowships are extremely competitive. I think in Canada there is only two position in 1 year for clinical microbiology. In
Okay.
USA, all USA, I think there are about 10 to 11 positions. So, and then if you go to ASM site, they have a list of the universities which offers CPEP approved clinical microbiology program.
Okay.
And to be eligible for the fellowship,
Hmm.
first thing is you have to apply for the fellowship.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the things that would help you to be successful in the fellowship application is actually if you have a clinical microbiology related PhD. So although it is not required a PhD in clinical microbiology, but if you have a PhD in clinical microbiology related field, then it is much easier to be successful in the fellowship application.
Okay.
And if you are successful in the fellowship program, for the fellowship program, then it is quite certain that you will be licensed. The reason is fellowship is dedicated training, right? So
Hmm.
it will train you in such a way that you will already know or learn the all the stuff that you need to write in the exam.
Okay.
Yeah. So the
Okay.
main challenge is the
So
finding a fellowship.
okay. So my question is, to get that clinical fellowship, what makes a stronger profile to get that fellowship? What do you say? Like, what can
Yeah, I
someone
can I can really talk about it. The reason is I have trained two postdocs who worked with me in the last 2 years, and both of them were successful. Um, one got
Yeah.
fellowship in NIH, the other got at UFT.
Wow, that's
So
wonderful.
yeah,
I
I
got the
mean,
right person for my suggestion.
so yeah, so as I said, because these fellowship are extremely competitive, there
Hmm.
would probably be hundreds of applications, right? And so the thing you need to prove is that um, like what they want to look at is like how passionate you are for the field, how
Okay.
much. So it's not the word of mouth only. You
Hmm.
have to demonstrate your passion for the field.
Okay.
So I have seen like the two candidates who were successful, with who worked with me. So they have, already started planning for it when they were already in during their PhD, and they started to already build their network. They go to LinkedIn, they become friend to every clinical microbiologist, every medical microbiologist they can find, right? And then
Hmm.
they go to the conferences, the exactly the conferences like in Canada we have it's called AMICACMID, infectious disease and clinical microbiology conference, annual
Okay.
conference. So they are already going to that conference 2 3
Hmm.
for 2 3 years. They're trying to present something in those
Hmm.
conferences, presenting an abstract or something, and then they're trying to find the right supervisor for their postdoc as well, or PhD as well. So these PhDs were interested to work with us. The main reason is that we advertised our position in such a way that like this is only 1 year fellowship, postdoctoral fellowship, and only we only hire students who are like their career aspiration is to become a clinical microbiologist.
Okay.
So even when we choose them, we already screen them because based on their interest, passion, and things. So
Great.
and then the more relevancy you can show in the field and more contribution you have made, you know, to the field. These
So,
are
by relevancy and contribution, do you mean related research paper, like clinical
yes,
research paper? Okay.
exactly. If you have a related research, say if you have done a whole genome sequencing of certain bacteria or viruses, say for example,
Hmm.
I mean, there are many ways you can bring it up. It doesn't have to be direct experience, right?
Okay.
So, in some way, you have contributed to this. So those are important, and these are getting harder and harder now because
Hmm.
more and more people now know about the field. Before there are only very few people knew, right?
Hmm.
And even the path I have taken to become a clinical microbiologist, I think it doesn't exist anymore. So I'm actually quite lucky in that sense that I could do it through a job experience. So right
Hmm.
now, so the fellowship is the only option, and the earlier you can start planning for it, the better.
Okay. So, the postdoc after PhD is it's not a requirement. Just someone can go for a postdoc just to get ready for the fellowship, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes, it may be difficult to get a fellowship straight from your PhD. I mean, because there are so many candidates, right? Only because, but it's possible. If one is interested, they should start um, applying in the
Hmm.
final year of their PhD already. It's not impossible if
Okay.
if their PhD is already in a related field and they have made some contribution and they can demonstrate. It's also possible. And normally, um, if you if you are like it's even for fellowships, right?
Hmm.
If they see somebody has already done like 10 years of postdoc on like on all different kinds of phases, they would not probably prefer those candidates because they would know that this person did not really have clinical microbiology as their aim, right? So that's why they came so late, right? So
Okay. And
those may be factors as well, yeah. So that's
hmm.
why the earlier, even at the undergrad level, if somebody start planning for it, it would be good, yeah.
Okay. So,
And it doesn't have to be microbiology. It could be biochemistry. It could be genetics. There are multiple options there. And
So is there any entrance exam type thing for the fellowship?
yes, yes. So there'll be major exams. So
Mhm,
the exam I wrote is called ABMM. It is a six and a
mhm.
half hour exam.
Okay.
There were 200 questions I had to
Mhm,
answer, right? And I needed the entire time to answer those questions, like the
okay.
entire 6.5 hours, because those are so tricky questions, right? So
Mhm.
the question style of ABMM is more like, about USMLE,
Yeah, yeah.
medical students, USMLE type exam.
Okay.
But the Canadian College of Microbiology exam is little different. It is actually three-stage exam. There is
Mm.
a written, there is an oral exam, and there is an interview. So yeah.
Okay. I got it. Thanks for
But
the
one
information.
doesn't need to write both exam. If any of them, if I get American license, I will get Canadian license by reciprocity without exam.
Oh,
If I have
okay.
Canadian license, I can get American license without exam.
Okay. That's interesting.
I just have to pay the fee, registration fee. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So let's talk about the next step. Someone, let's say someone has the licensed fellowship, and do you think it's easy to get a job after that?
Yes, I mean, especially my experience has been amazing. I have to tell you. I
Mhm,
mean, I became a clinical microbiologist in 2015, and I was in Qatar at that time, right?
mhm. Okay.
So, like, I think I decided to come back to Canada, and in 3 months, I already had three job offers. But I had one offer
That's
from
good.
St. John's, one offer from Alberta. So, but I wanted to be in Ontario, so I came to the Life Labs, and even before I went to McMaster, I declined an offer from Ontario Public Health. I declined an offer from Alberta again. So the only reason is my fellowship, my license. If I mean, and I anticipated it long time ago. I knew that if I'm leaving Canada, leaving a permanent job, I when I left BC Children's Hospital, right? That
Mhm.
was a permanent job and my academic position with UBC. So and
Okay.
then going to Qatar was easy, but I knew that coming back would be extremely difficult if I do not have a license. So
Okay.
um, it also depends, of timing. My timing was very good as well because of the COVID pandemic,
Mhm.
and there are more professionals needed in the field. Right now, it's going a little bit bad because most positions are saturated, but I'm sure they will pick up again.
Okay. At
This
least better than other jobs because all jobs are in a bad situation right now.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And not only about job opportunity, job salary,
Mhm.
benefit. I think the because in clinical field there's always higher, right? From I
Yeah,
think you
yeah.
if you compare to academic faculty position, you'd probably earn 2 to 3 times more than that. So in the clinical field,
Okay.
and
And
then
jobs are more stable, right?
stable, and it is solid money. It's not grant funded or
Mhm.
it's not tenure track because it's funded by hospitals. The positions
Okay.
are funded by hospitals,
Okay.
so it's permanent from the beginning. And the most important thing is that the flexibility of the job, because if you are passionate about teaching, if you're passionate about research, you can do as much as you want, right? These normally comes together. Every clinical position comes with a affiliated, at least to the minimum with an affiliated faculty position. In our case, McMaster gave us full-time faculty position, but some university gives affiliated faculty or adjunct faculty position. So that means if you have passion for teaching, you can very well do that
Mhm.
alongside with your clinical consultancy. And research is, of course, it's completely up to you. Like some consultants doesn't do research at all, but we are very like very much invested in research. So I do a lot of research. I spend a lot of time in research. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I was gonna ask a question related to that. So, as this is not a typical route for a researcher or scientist. So, many of us do not have a very good idea about your job responsibilities. So,
Yeah.
what is a typical day look like for you, or what are the regular jobs you
Yeah,
usually do
yeah.
as a clinical microbiologist?
Yeah. So one important thing is that the job description may slightly vary in US and Canada. Canada
Okay.
has a different style.
Mm-hmm.
So in USA, if you are a clinical microbiologist who is licensed with ABMM, that makes
Mm-hmm.
you eligible to become a lab director.
Okay.
So you'll be a microbiology lab director somewhere in USA. Okay. And lab director has multiple responsibilities. Lab director would have administrative responsibilities. Lab director would also have consultative responsibilities, clinical response. So with clinical responsibilities means being on call, right?
Yeah.
So the same thing I do here. I don't do any administrative job. I'm a clinical microbiologist. Um, we have a division head who is doing the admin. So, as a clinical microbiologist, our service is kind of, it's called consultative service. Consultative
Mm-hmm.
service means we um, kind of advise. We don't directly manage patients. We advise the physicians.
Okay.
So the physicians who are treating an infectious disease,
Mm-hmm.
they would call us asking for suggestions about what test to do, what which test is what kind of a specimen, how to collect the specimen, those kind of advice we provide them. And
Okay.
then they would, because we also do antibiotic susceptibility,
Mm-hmm.
we may also advise them about what is the most appropriate antibiotic to use in those
Mm-hmm.
scenarios, right? So but we don't directly prescribe, we
Okay.
don't give direct prescription, we advise the physicians. So that's one side. The other side is the lab consults us. So we have routine lab staffs. So lab staffs means they are technologists. They're medical laboratory technologists, right? So the medical laboratory technologists are actually doing the test. And
Mm-hmm.
then they are also reporting the test. But they have their operating standard operating procedure. And in their SOP, there are certain places like about reporting. They will say that
Mm-hmm.
consult the microbiologist on call. So
Okay.
then, if they have that kind of result, they will go to their SOP and then they will see or consult the microbiologist. So they will call us and consult
Mm-hmm.
us. Other than that, when I'm on call, I will also go to the lab and do a lab round.
Okay.
I do it always on at a fixed time. I go
Mm-hmm.
to bench and ask them, "Do you have any question?" So then they would ask question. Then they say, "Okay, we got this bug from this patient's blood culture. How should I report it? Or should I do the susceptibility? Or I put a comment?" So then I will instruct them. Like, I'll look up
Mm-hmm.
the patient, will correlate with the patient, and I will advise them what to do. Right? How to report that. And we
Mm-hmm.
often ask the lab techs, like, can you put this comment with the result? So
Okay.
so that comment would go to the physician to help them how to treat the patient, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these we will do when we are on call, but that doesn't mean we are always on call. We are on call by rotation. So like
Okay.
in my team, like we have like almost ours is a huge lab because we serve the entire region. So we have like six other medical microbiologists, and I am the only clinical microbiologist.
Okay.
So we take turn to do on call, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we have to take after hour on call or weekend on call as well. So other
Okay.
than that, we are also responsible for maintaining the quality of the lab with the accreditation of the lab.
So I have just for clarification, is this on-call time is out of your regular 9 to 5 job hour?
Yes, when I'm on
Okay.
call, we are divided. Like if it is, we have schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm only evening and weekend on call. Sometimes I'm on call for the daytime.
Okay.
So we already like ahead of, like we make the schedule 6 months ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
So and then on call doesn't mean that I have to be there. I have to be available on the phone, and I have to have access to internet because I may need to access the patient chart
All right.
to
Okay.
look up
Got
the
it. Mm.
patient. Yeah. So and
Okay.
sometimes if it is after hour on the weekend and there is a critical result to communicate and the lab is not able to reach the physician, then they would escalate it to us because the lab cannot directly call the patient. In that case, we call the patient. We
Mm-hmm.
call the patient, and we call the patient mainly to check if they're doing okay or not. If they have any problem, we call them, okay, go immediately to the emergency, right? Something
Mm-hmm.
like this. Yeah.
Okay.
And other than that, there are many other side work, like especially the quality initiatives. We spend a lot of time on the quality improvement, and maintaining accreditation. And because I have a specialization in molecular side, I
Mm-hmm.
also look after a lot of molecular testing, so troubleshooting. And other than that, teaching and research is also part of the, like, I mean, it's I'm not paid for these,
Okay.
but these are mainly I do for my passion, right? So I spend a lot of time on research and teaching, yeah. And we do a lot of medical student teaching. So
Okay.
we teach basically postgraduate medical student. That means the residents. It's called residency.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
medical microbiology and infectious disease residents come to us. They do rotation with us. So this is also part of our job
Okay. Okay.
to teach them.
Got it. So there are many responsibilities. So my last question about this part is that how do the work-life balance look like as for a clinical microbiologist? Uh,
Yeah, so it depends on individual, right? So I mean,
and also, I can tag a little bit with that.
mhm.
If I ask you what is the negative side of the job, or you can say the cons. You mentioned the pros, and what are the cons in that job? You can.
The negative side is, yeah. So there is a lot of responsibility,
Mhm.
right? So whenever anything clinical, it comes with responsibility, right? So like if I am required, to attend to a patient or something. So
Mhm.
like when you are in research, you can always wait up to the next day. You do not kill somebody, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
so that kind of responsibility is there.
Research planning depends on me how I plan. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So we can always delay things. If I don't have time, I can always replan it on the research side. But when it comes to patient, so it's a huge responsibility, and I have to attend to that first.
Yeah.
So regardless I like or not like,
Mm-hmm.
that's the responsibility, right? So, but it's not anything overwhelming actually. I mean, it's always manageable. I don't want to scare anyone, like, so sometimes it can get really suddenly busy, but there are always, it also there are colleagues who can help, the lab helps. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that's one thing. And in terms of work life balance is totally up to the person, like, for example, if I haven't invested so much in teaching and research, I would have probably a lot more free time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I choose it myself because I'm very passionate to these things, right? So
Mm-hmm.
nobody is forcing me to do research or anything, to
Yeah.
write grants or anything. It's all my choice, right? I have chosen it.
Yeah. 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 You are doing kind of two jobs at the same
Three
time.
jobs actually, almost,
Three jobs. Okay.
almost three jobs.
Okay. Okay. So it's different
I
for
may
you.
not be able to maintain it for a very long time. So
Mm.
maybe because I have started again to establish things, I'm putting a lot of my time and effort in this thing. But maybe after 5 years, I will slowly cut down on things, right? So, and
Okay.
that kind of things, like I run an undergrad course, say, for example, at McMaster University.
Mm-hmm.
So that course was started by my department chairman.
Mm-hmm.
He started it, and then I was a co-instructor with her for 1 year. And then from this year, she's saying that she completely gave it to me, right, to run this course. But she also gave me option. If you feel too much pressure or if you don't like it, just let me know. I'll find other alternative. So that kind of thing, right? So
Okay. Okay. So for someone who is doing only the job of clinical microbiologist, it's not overwhelming. So there is a standard work-life
yes,
balance.
a lot of clinical microbiologists are just barely doing their clinical part and
Mm.
not doing much teaching. I mean, teaching, I think everyone do a little bit, even if not a lot, to some extent. They have to
Okay.
teaching, but it's not that overwhelming.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. Anvivay, thank you so much for sharing all this information. I think everything will be really helpful for someone who is interested to come to this track. Uh, and Also, do you like to add anything finally?
No, yeah, thank you so much, first of all, to give me an opportunity to talk. Yeah, I just want to say, I encourage, whoever listens to this podcast, if you are in the field,
Mm,
think about this clinical track. It doesn't have to be microbiology. So, I mean, there is certainly some benefit to come to this track that I learned from my
mm,
life and experience, and because my dream was not this, honestly. My dream was to become a regular faculty, become
yeah,
a
yeah.
regular university faculty in Bangladesh or in North America. But when I discovered this track, I'm actually happier that I did not choose the direct academic
Typical
track.
route. Okay.
Yeah, I choose this track.
Okay.
It is much more reassuring and even financially way better than the regular track. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So I would welcome everyone to this field, whoever is interested. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. I know. I hope a lot of people will be more interested to come this track after they listen to you and after they listen to this podcast, because yeah, this is really motivating, especially the money part also. So thank you so much for coming to this platform, and dear audience, thank you for listening to us. I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.